I rewound the clip 3 times, and every time her SUV hit that gate, I swear I could feel the ground shake beneath my feet. And that was before I realized she smiled while doing it. If you've never seen an HOA president go full action movie villain on a piece of private property, count yourself blessed. I sat there at my kitchen counter, coffee going cold, watching my security feed as Marlene Hartwell, queen of the cul-de-sac, self-appointed enforcer of order, chaos, and whatever existed between, lined up her crossover SUV like it was a battering ram. One quick rev of the engine, a suspicious glance over her shoulder, and she drove straight through the wooden gate that led down to my fishing lake. Splinters flew. The gate hinges screamed. The logs toppled like dominoes. And Marlene. She just kept driving until she reached the waterline, hopped out, dusted off her cardigan, and inspected the damage like she was grading a student project. I knew she'd been pushing boundaries. I just didn't know she'd literally start breaking them. By the time the clip ended, my heart was in my throat. Not because of the destruction, though, trust me. Seeing your property turned into a demolition derby prop is never relaxing, but because of the unmistakable look on Marlene's face. It wasn't shock, it wasn't panic, it was victory. The kind of victory someone feels after finally doing the thing they've fantasized about for months. To understand how we got here, you need to know one thing. Marlene Hartwell has been on a crusade to claim my lake for the HOA since the day she pinned that shiny little president badge to her blouse. Never mind that the deed is older than the HOA itself. Never mind that it's clearly marked as privately owned. And definitely never mind that the last 3 presidents respected that boundary like civilized adults. Not Marlene. She slid into power on a platform of lake revitalization, which everyone thought meant pulling weeds and repainting the gazebo. Turned out she actually meant declaring war on anything that doesn't bend to my will. Her first shot fired came in the form of a letter folded crisply, taped to my mailbox like a parking ticket. "Dear resident," it began, which was her polite way of saying, "I know exactly whose property I'm threatening, but I refuse to use your name." According to her, the fishing gate was an unapproved structure built within HOA visual perimeter. I nearly laughed myself into a coughing fit. The gate had been there since before my kids were born. She'd lived here for 2 years. I marched that letter back to her door. When she answered, she had that pleasant but not truly pleasant smile she reserved for moments when she wanted to look neighborly while plotting your downfall. "Oh, hello," she said, like she hadn't taped a legal migraine to my mailbox. "Marlene," I said, holding the letter up, "you know this lake isn't HOA property." She tilted her head. "The bylaws suggest otherwise." "No, the bylaws don't mention the lake at all." "That's the suggestion," she said, as if that explained anything. From that moment, it became a Cold War. She'd leave pamphlets on my porch about shared natural resources. I'd attend HOA meetings with my deed in hand like a medieval knight carrying proof of royal lineage. Neighbors whispered. Some took sides. Others avoided eye contact like we were debating international borders instead of a quarter-acre lake where I occasionally caught catfish. And underneath all of it, I could feel her irritation growing. The more I pushed back, the more she twitched. She'd adjust the knot in her scarf. She'd squeeze her pens until the plastic creaked. She'd mutter, "Some people just don't understand community responsibility." Still, I didn't think she'd snap. Which brings us back to the security footage. Exhibit A in Marlene's descent into HOA madness. I replayed it again, focusing on the small details. The way her brake lights fluttered nervously before the hit. The way she stepped out of the vehicle afterward, smoothing her hair like she'd just survived a windy walk rather than committed property destruction. And then my favorite part, the way she took out her phone and snapped photos of the destroyed gate, as if she planned to blame me for it. Oh, she was bold. Unhinged, but bold. I stood, grabbed my jacket, and stepped outside. The late afternoon sun hit the lake just right, turning the water a coppery gold. The scent of pine drifted through the air, mixing with the fresh smell of broken wood from the now decimated gate. A few neighbors lingered on their porches, pretending not to watch me, but very clearly invested in this episode of Suburban Gladiators. I walked down toward the wreckage. Tire tracks gouged deep into the dirt, curving down the slope. The gate lay in a twisted heap, half floating in the shallows. And standing beside it, arms crossed over her floral blouse, was Marlene. "Quite a mess," she said, feigning disappointment. "You made it," I replied. She raised her eyebrows as if she couldn't imagine why I'd think such a thing. "Well, accidents happen. You rammed it. That's a bold accusation. I have cameras." Her smile wavered. For a moment, the only sounds were water lapping against broken timber and a pair of ducks quacking somewhere out of sight. Then she leaned closer. "You can make this easy," she whispered, "or you can make this complicated." And that was the moment I knew she had to plan something bigger, pettier, and far more dangerous than a wrecked gate. But I wasn't prepared for just how far she would go. "Not yet. Section 14B gives me full authority," she screamed, slamming the papers against my chest. "And you are in direct violation. If you've never had a stack of aggressively stapled HOA documents waved in your face like a holy relic of judgment, let me tell you it wakes you up faster than a double espresso." I hadn't even finished unlocking my front door when Marlene Hartwell stormed across my porch like a one-woman regulatory hurricane. Her perfume hit first, sharp and floral, followed by the sound of paper shuffling in that frantic, theatrical way only someone deeply wrong but very confident can pull off. She jabbed her finger at a highlighted paragraph I'd never seen before. She shouted something about community integrity, and when I made the mistake of asking what Section 14B even was, she recoiled like I'd insulted the Constitution. That's how my morning started. It only got stranger from there. She thrust the pages toward me again. "Read it," Marlene ordered. I skimmed. The formatting was suspiciously fresh. The font was definitely Calibri, which I'm pretty sure isn't vintage HOA typewriter style. And the wording, well, let's just say it had her signature passive-aggressive flair. According to this so-called rule, all perimeter entry structures must be reviewed annually and approved by the HOA president to ensure aesthetic continuity. I almost laughed. The fishing gate didn't even sit within the HOA perimeter, and everyone knew it. "Where did this come from?" I asked. "It's been there for years," she snapped. "You agreed to it when you signed the covenant." "I signed that covenant in 2008. This says revised April." She blinked. "Of last year, this paragraph still has spell check squiggles under it." Her jaw tightened. Behind her, a couple of neighbors hovered at the sidewalk, pretending to inspect their shrubbery while blatantly eavesdropping. The morning sun turned their windows into bright mirrors, catching glimpses of faces peeking through blinds. The scent of fresh-cut grass drifted down the street, cheerful and at odds with Marlene's meltdown. "You have 48 hours to correct the violation," she said, smoothing her blouse like she'd just laid down divine law. "Failure to comply will result in escalating fines." "For what violation?" The gate you destroyed." She bristled. "Allegedly destroyed. I have video that shut her up for only a moment." Then she leaned in, lowering her voice to a hiss. "Rules evolve, communities evolve, and homeowners must evolve with them." Suddenly, it clicked. Rumors had been swirling for weeks. Neighbors whispering that Marlene held executive sessions with her hand-picked board members. Meetings mysteriously moved. Agenda items quietly updated. Drafts circulating among her clique before anyone else saw them. All of it culminating in this her sparkling new Section 14B, printed at dawn on a desktop printer still warm from the job. She wasn't just rewriting rules, she was rewriting power. "I'll tell you what," I said, handing the papers back. "I'm going to have my lawyer look over these. If they check out, we'll talk." Her eye twitched. Just a little. just enough. A lawyer, she repeated, forcing a laugh that was about 10% humor and 90% panic. There's no need for that. Seems like there might be. Marlene straightened her shoulders. Expect an official notice by the end of the day. She spun around and marched down the walkway, nearly tripping over a decorative pumpkin on my neighbor's porch. The onlookers scattered like pigeons as she passed. And just like that, the storm drifted back to whatever cloud HOA presidents brewed on between public outbursts. I went inside and closed the door behind me, letting out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. The papers still bothered me, not just what they said, but how they looked. The margins were uneven, the phrasing clunky. The header misspelled the subdivision's name Sunset Ridge Estates, not Sunset Ridge Estates. A typo Marlene had also made on last month's meeting minutes. If she rewrote these rules, she hadn't even done it well. I pulled up the HOA's digital archive on my laptop. Every official amendment had to be recorded there. Every change required a vote, and every revision needed signatures. I searched for Section 14B. Nothing. I searched for revisions from April. Still nothing. Then I checked the version history on the handbook PDF. Last official update, 3 years ago. Long before Marlene ever touched the presidency. A slow realization washed over me. If she inserted rules without a vote, without signatures, without board approval, then she hadn't just fabricated regulations. She'd overstepped legal authority. And if the rest of the board, new or worse, helped, they were complicit. Outside, a Mustang rolled by, its bass rattling the street. Wind rustled the trees. Somewhere in the distance, someone fired up a lawnmower, drowning out my thoughts until it sputtered into a steady, mechanical hum. I grabbed my phone and dialed the only person who could untangle this mess. "You're calling early," my lawyer said, sounding both amused and resigned. "What's she done now?" "You might want to sit down," I told him. As I explained the fake rule, the phantom revisions, and the suspicious Section 14B, he grew very quiet. When I finished, he cleared his throat. "That's not just overreach," he said. "If she distributed falsified governing documents, that's grounds for removal." "Thought so. But don't confront her yet. Let me verify everything. Once we move hard." I thanked him and hung up, feeling a strange mix of dread and satisfaction. Before I could even set the phone down, a loud metallic clunk echoed from outside. I stepped to the window. A bright orange violation notice had just been nailed to my mailbox. And standing at the end of my driveway, watching me read it, was Marlene. Smiling, she took one step toward me, ready to unleash another HOA tirade, and I simply said, "Marlene, I have the footage." She stopped like someone had pressed a hidden pause button. If you've never watched an HOA president freeze mid-rant, eyes widening, breath catching in her throat, let me assure you it's one of life's underrated joys. The wind carried the scent of damp earth from last night's rain, and somewhere behind us a dog barked as if cheering me on. Marlene had marched across my driveway with her usual fury, a folder clutched under her arm like a weapon. She'd come to threaten more fines, more violations, more of her imaginary Section 14B nonsense. But now she just stood there, lips parted, waiting for me to explain what I meant. "I have high-definition video," I said, savoring each word. Every second of the gate demolition, her bravado flickered. For a long moment, she didn't speak. The morning sun reflected off her oversized sunglasses in a way that made it impossible to read her expression. But the slight shake of the folder in her hand gave her away. "You don't have anything," she finally muttered. I reached into my pocket, tapped my phone screen, and held it up between us. The first frame of the video appeared her SUV angled like a battering ram, headlights glaring. Gate in pristine pre-destruction condition. "You sure about that?" Her throat bobbed. The video began to play, and the sound of her engine revving echoed faintly through the quiet cul-de-sac. The moment her SUV slammed into the gate, she flinched. Even the birds seemed to quiet down, as if sensing that this was a pivotal neighborhood moment. Before she could find her voice again, a creak came from behind my porch railing. Footsteps, slow, purposeful. My lawyer stepped into view. Now, when I say my lawyer, I don't mean some hulking courtroom gladiator. He's a calm, mild-mannered man with glasses that slide down his nose and a voice that sounds like he's permanently analyzing tax codes. But to Marlene, he may as well have been a grim reaper wearing a suit from Kohl's. He held a neat stack of wharf documents tucked under one arm and offered her a polite nod. "Mrs. Hartwell," he said, "we need to discuss several issues regarding fabricated HOA regulations, unapproved amendments, and destruction of private property." Her mouth opened. Nothing came out, not even a squeak. "You can't just bring a lawyer onto HOA grounds," she stammered. "He's on my property," I said. "You know the land you keep pretending the HOA owns." My lawyer slid a paper from his folder. "This is a formal notice. In it, we have documentation of unauthorized changes to governing documents. The board has been copied." In fact, he tapped his phone. "They've all received links to the security footage as well, time-stamped, licensed, backed up." Her sunglasses slipped down her nose. "You sent them the video," she whispered. "Every second," I said. A car rolled slowly past us, the driver rubbernecking with the subtlety of a soap opera extra. The air hummed with that awkward tension that spreads through suburban neighborhoods like a cold front. Curtains twitched. Garage doors paused mid-close. Even the dog who'd been barking earlier had gone silent, as if politely waiting for this scene to unfold. "You can't do this," Marlene finally said. "The board won't believe you." "They already do," my lawyer replied. Some replied within minutes. Her face drained of color. I tucked my phone away, stepping closer. "You went after me with fake rules, destroyed my gate. You nailed a violation notice to my mailbox. Did you really think no one would question any of that once they saw proof?" She shook her head, as if trying to physically eject the situation from her brain. "This is taken out of context. There are nuances. Administrative nuances." My lawyer flipped to another page. "There's also the matter of the boundaries of the HOA itself. The official plat maps clearly state the lake-hand 30 feet of land surrounding it is privately owned, meaning none of your rules apply there." Her eyes snapped up. 30 feet. "Yes," he said, calmly. "Which includes the lower path, the shed, the shoreline, and the strip of trees. Not HOA jurisdiction. Never has been." I added, "Funny, isn't it? You tried to claim the lake, and ended up trespassing across far more property than you thought." She stepped back, then another step. For a second, I thought she might actually faint, but Marlene wasn't the fainting type. No, she was the plotting type, the calculating type, the "I will find a new angle even while drowning" type. She squared her shoulders. "I'll call a meeting. I'll explain everything. They'll listen. I'm sure they will," my lawyer said. "In fact, they've asked for an emergency session this evening." Her breath caught. "Without me." "With you," I said. "On the agenda." She stared at me like she'd never truly seen me before, as if, up until this moment, I had been a minor inconvenience, a speed bump on her path to HOA domination. But now she understood. She was the one standing in the road. A horn honked down the street, startling her. She clutched her folder tighter and hurried off my property, practically speed-walking toward her car. The engine sputtered before catching, and she backed out so fast she nearly clipped her own mailbox. I watched her taillights vanish around the bend. My lawyer exhaled. "She's more rattled than I expected." "I know," I said. "And that scares me." He raised an eyebrow. "Scares you how?" "Because Marlene doesn't quit," I told him. "She improvises. She escalates." He nodded slowly, concern settling across his face. The breeze rustled the treetops. A faint ripple crossed the lake. Somewhere, a screen door slammed, followed by hurried footsteps, someone running, fast. I glanced toward the sound. A neighbor sprinted up the street, wide-eyed, breathless. "You need to come quick," he shouted. "It's Marlene. She's doing something at the clubhouse." And just like that, the next storm began.